Value podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition their business on their terms. Our mission was born from the lessons we've learned from over 100 business transactions, which fuels our desire to share our experiences and wisdom so you can succeed. Now here's your host, CEO of Mastery Partners, Tom Bronson.
Hi, this is Tom Bronson, and welcome to Maximize Business Value, a podcast for business owners who are passionate about building long-term sustainable value in their businesses. In this episode, I'd like to welcome our guest, LeiLani Quiray. She's the CEO of Be the Change HR. Now, I met LeiLani through Provisors, the professional networking organization that you've heard me talk about on this program before. After running into her at various Provisor meetings around the country, thank goodness for virtual Provisor meetings right now, I thought it must be fate and she needs to be on this podcast. So here she is. Welcome to Maximize Business Value, LeiLani.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm so excited about talking with you about your business. So you have an unusual name for the business, Be the Change HR. Tell us about Be the Change HR.
You know what? Every once in a while, I actually admit this. I have that tattooed on my back, but I don't have Be the Change HR. I have to clarify. I don't have my company name tattooed on my back. It's not Be the Change HR. Can you imagine? It is the actual quote from Gandhi, right? I got it years ago. But really the idea for me was, and for years I had thought about this idea, was how do I do human resources and philanthropy under one roof? And so throughout my career, I was thinking, do I start a nonprofit? No, that's not how those things work. And then, 4 years ago, I launched Be the Change HR with the idea, okay, we're going to figure this out. We're going to do human resources for small business, and we're going to do philanthropy. And at the time, I had been a volunteer for over a decade at nonprofits that help people with workplace readiness, nonprofits like Working Wardrobes, WHW. So when I started the organization, I continued to volunteer at those organizations. It wasn't till a couple of years ago that I had the light bulb moment, and I thought, oh my gosh, why don't you build your own job readiness course and offer it to nonprofits so they don't have to go anywhere? A lot of times nonprofits, they have to bus people into these other nonprofits to help them with the workplace readiness skills like resume writing, interviewing, networking. Instead, we bring the course to them. So that is truly what Be the Change HR is. We do human resources for small business, and we provide free job readiness classes and coaching to nonprofits. And those nonprofits are serving individuals who are coming out of trafficking, homelessness, teen moms, domestic violence, veterans in transition. We help all kinds of people.
So do you work all over the country or are you focused kind of in any specific area?
So clients all across the country when it comes to human resources, because I make the joke that if you can do HR in California, you can basically do it on the moon. All the other states, you are so fantastically lucky that you are not doing business in California, because there are so many employment laws that apply not just on a state level, but a county level and a city level. Like those of you in Texas, easy breezy. Anytime we have a client that says they're from Texas, like that's super easy. So we do have clients all across the US. And then with our job readiness course, we have nonprofits in California, Las Vegas, and currently we're in talks with some in Atlanta, Georgia, that help homeless people. So we're creating that across the country as well.
That is awesome. That is such a needed service. And you're right. There was a time in my career that I actually owned some businesses in California. And I have vowed since then that I will never own another business in California. I love California. We visit there frequently. I love the wine country. But the business environment is onerous in many places, and of course, all of the rules and regulations around HR, you could not be more accurate. If you can navigate HR in California, you could do it on the moon. I love that saying.
So true. And compliance is only a small part of human resources, right? businesses and leaders to be able to focus also on the strategy part. How do you align what human resources the business's goals are with HR? How do you align them together? But when you have to focus so much on compliance, it usually that is where small businesses especially are paying attention to, like, I got to follow all these rules and these laws. There's also this other piece that is so important to businesses, and that is how strategically to grow your workforce, how to have a enjoyable experience for your employees so they come in happy and they leave happy, which is also very, very important. So it kind of stinks when you got to pay attention to all the rules when there's a whole other side to human resources that is just as equally important, because it involves your people being happy, right?
Yep. No doubt. Yeah, when I bought a company there that, gosh, didn't have much more than, I don't know, 20 employees, but they had a very high-end HR person who I offered to come and run HR for our business. Our business was based in Texas, but we had our operation in California and an operation in Miami and several places in between. And but I really, really liked her, and I wanted her to come be our senior executive for HR at our corporate office, but I couldn't get her to move. So she ultimately left the company. And of course, we didn't feel the need to have an HR executive level person at this very small operation in California, but it became very apparent to me quickly why we did. It is tough. So I know you are originally based in Southern California. Okay, my listeners and clients in SoCal, I know it's SoCal, right? So I get that. But so you were in Southern California, but recently you were in Dallas, and now I think you're in Alabama somewhere. Is there a 2021 road trip that you want to tell us about?
Yeah, in fact, there is. So I'll rewind all the way back to March of last year. I don't even have to say what happened. I get tired of hearing back when the thing hit, right?
The thing. I like that. Yes.
I don't want to say it anymore. We're all tired of it. But everybody went remote. And the team that I have is fully remote. I was the one that was just driving everywhere. SoCal native, any of you from Southern California, you know how long it takes to get from the Inland Empire to Santa Monica. Okay, that's just, yeah, nuts in itself. So we all went to remote. I went to remote. That was nice. I had a kid who graduated high school, lives with dad. And I thought, okay, I'm actually, for the first time in my adult life, going to take an extended sort of road trip. And so in the summer of last year, I went from California to Chicago and back. And in that time, I decided I'm going to do this next year. I don't think that this whole pandemic thing is going to end anytime soon. And I'm going to do it for 10 months. So from October of last year to December, I started selling all of my stuff. Everything that I kept fit into 12 boxes and went into storage. And everything that I needed fit in my car. Now I left Christmas Day, and I wish I could show you a picture, but my car is a cute little Mazda Miata. It has no back seat, right? It only has a passenger seat and a trunk that will fit basically a carry-on and a couple extra bags. And so I loaded
a couple extra really small bags.
Yeah, I loaded up Bianca's her name. So I loaded up Bianca and I started driving east. And my first stop was Dallas, Texas. For the Provisor members out there, I decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to visit our Provisor networks all around the country, and I'm going to stop in places in between. So I was in Dallas, Texas for a month. From there, I went to a small town off of the Toledo Bend Reservoir called Manny. Not Many. I kept saying Many. It's not Many. It's Manny. So Manny, Louisiana. And from there, I'm down now and in the Gulf Shores in Alabama. From here, I'm going to hit NOLA, stop in 2 places in Mississippi I've never been, and then Birmingham, Atlanta. And then from there, who knows, but I'll be on the road until the fall. And I'm waiting for the snow to melt, because Bianca is not a happy, I don't think she's like this far from the ground. So I don't think she would fare well in any type of snow. She'll probably get pretty angry at me too. So we're going to stay south as long as we can, waiting for the snow to melt up north.
All right, so we're going to have to unpack this for just a second before we move on to more important questions. Actually, I think these are much more important. First of all, Bianca, the name for the car. What
Uh-huh.
I have. You can see over my shoulder here. I have three daughters, and they all name their cars.
Yes.
I don't know that I've ever actually named a car. Is that strictly a female thing to do? I don't know.
I've heard of men naming their cars. I like to name lots of things, and cars is one of them. And with that being said, I don't have much of a what do you call it? Like an attachment to physical things. It's just fun to name them. And I think cars have different personalities. My car prior to this one was a cute little Mini Cooper, and its name was Jiggy, right? It's a perfect name for like a Mini Cooper. So I think it's just fun. It's just fun to name your cars. If not, I have a friend, Ellie, also improvisers. He didn't have a name for his Mustang, so he asked his granddaughter, and his granddaughter named it Bob. So if you don't have a name for your car, ask your kids or your grandkids what you should name the car, and that can be the name.
Well, as soon as our kids, as they've grown, they're all grown now. Our youngest is a freshman in college, and they all sort of inherited cars, right? From my wife and I. And my youngest daughter inherited. I actually, when my mom passed away, gosh, 7 or 8 years ago now, I took her car as a part of our settlement of the estate, and drove it for years. It's a Lexus LS 400, right? It's like a 2005, right? It still hums like a top. And But I asked our daughter. I said, "Hey, you're turning 16. I need to get you some transportation, not because I want to buy you a car, but just because I'm tired of driving you around."
Right.
And I said, "I'm thinking about getting a new car. Do you want my car?" And I'm thinking, there's no way this 16-year-old girl is going to want this LS 400 boat, right? And she goes, "That was Nana's car. I want Nana's car." And she didn't have it for a nanosecond until she named it Ruben. When she was home over the holidays this year, we have sort of a strange setup. We have side entry garage. We live on a corner, but our garage comes around the other side of the house, driveway around the other side of the house. And she had parked sort of behind my garage door and partly behind my wife's. But when I came out, I pushed the button. I got into my wife's car. I threw it into reverse. I looked behind me, saw nothing, and backed straight into Ruben. And Of course, I added a little dent there, and I came home and I looked at her and I'm like, "Oh, honey, I'm so sad. I hit Ruben." And I say, "Let's go out and look." And she looked at it. She's like, "Ruben's okay. He's been around the block. I think he can handle it." So I really was distraught, but she wasn't. And then, of course, you also mentioned you went from Southern California, SoCal, okay, to Chicago. Please tell me you took historic Route 66.
I was on part of it on the way back, but I did see when I was in Chicago, I did not know that's where it started. So I forget what street I was on, but I look up, I see the sign. It says, the beginning of Route 66. I was like, oh my gosh. So it is on the list to do one day, to do that, whether it's there and back or one way. Maybe you can make a plan of it, like buy a car, name the car, and then just head whatever way. Because I said about Chicago, if it wasn't so dang cold there, I actually would live there. It is a wonderful city, but apparently it gets below zero a lot. And I don't know if my SoCal native person here could handle that kind of weather. I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, and by the way, because I've lived all over the country, and I lived in Chicago for the longest 20 years of my life. It was really only about 14 months. But I went through a couple of winters there, and not only is it very cold, but I think in the winter we were there, of course, massive amount of snow, more than usual because it's on the west side of Lake Michigan. But we didn't see the sun for like 90 days. And that creates, by the way, when you're running a business, all kinds of unusual and unexpected HR issues when you don't get your vitamin D. So, they could probably use your help up in Chicago in the
All
winter.
I'm thinking is, if, as an employer, if that is actually an issue, to offer like vitamin D supplements to everyone if they need it, if they like it. You'd like, hey, listen, employers, if you're in Chicago and that's an issue, then maybe it could be like, hey, I'll send you a bottle of vitamin D if you'd like it, just to help with your
I'm telling you, I think that they would get it because, when you're in the middle of that, and I mean, it gets really testy if you don't see the sun, and it's all very tense in the work environment stuff because, people are living like in the world's largest room. But then when the sun pops out, man, it's Mardi Gras. Yeah, it's awesome. Everybody's happy, it's a whole different ball game, but in between, it's tough. Well, let's get back to some business questions. I think a business with core values makes it a lot easier to attract and retain the right people. Do you agree with that? And if so, what are your core values?
I 100% agree with that. So when I started this business, it was just me, a solo show, right? And I think every business owner who's growing their business at one point, the contracts are coming in, the requests for proposals are happening. You're thinking, do I stay a one-person show or do I scale, right? And when I was presented with that, with a handful, I remember that the work would come in, I'd be like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do it? And then it would kind of like settle down a little bit. And as it continued to do that, I thought, okay, what am I going to do? And I went back to the reason why I started the business. This is to do great HR work and to impact the community around us. And it can be done in larger scale if we grow. So that meant to me, okay, well, if this is the purpose of the business, then we're going to scale. And so from May of that year, all the way until I started recruiting in November, I spent a lot of time doing two things. Revamping the website, which anybody who's done that, oh my gosh, like I had done my own on Wix. This was time like we got to work on the brand and the messaging, and all of that had to be in line. But I also knew that I had to hone in on core values. And I know a lot of times we say, okay, we need to find another me, right? You need to find another you in order to grow your business. But I instead viewed it as, I need to figure out why people love working with me. Why do they choose Be the Change HR with me behind the helm? And figure out what those values are that I could hire for. And so we have, to this day, we have 4 core values. One of the biggest ones is calming. Okay, I work in HR. My team works in HR. If you can imagine an HR person coming to you and helping you with something or telling you something or orchestrating something with you and you feeling calm, I know a lot of people listening are like, no, that usually doesn't happen. But I knew that because a lot of the comments that I would get from clients is, I feel better. I feel better that you're here. Thank goodness you are here. So that was one of the main ones. Calming. We got to hire people who have that essence to them, that they feel when you're around, they feel better, right? Caring. That has to do with not just our clients, but the nonprofits and the people we serve. You really have to give a crap about people. Not only when it comes to HR, when it comes to the employees, when it comes to the clients, but also comes to those individuals that we coach and we teach how to get healthy, gainful employment. Reliable, because one of the things that I boast about myself is I am 5 minutes early everywhere. In fact, even in my personal life, like if I set a kitchen timer for, let's say, 1 hour, what'll happen is I'll be doing stuff around the house and then I'll think I should check on the food. And I will walk into the kitchen and I kid you not, more often than not, the counter will be like 59, 58, 50, and I'll laugh to myself like my timing is perfect. So reliability is huge. If you say you're going to finish something on Friday, get it in by Thursday. If you have a meeting at 1 o'clock, make sure if you're not there like on a Zoom call right away, that you're sitting down here ready to hit that okay, join meeting button right before 1 o'clock hits. So you're a little bit early. So reliable is a big one. And then finally, one of my favorites is fun. Again, another word you would not associate with HR individuals. And this has been a new one. We replaced intuitive with fun in the last 6 months. And the reason we did that is that HR can be such a serious topic. And a lot of times I feel like your traditional HR person is very buttoned up and minds their P's and Q's and, oh, don't do that, right?
You apparently don't know the HR people I know.
Send them my way, please. I want more like-minded people. But another piece of it is me personally, this comes from me, is that I'm silly. In our YouTube videos, we have a whole series called Asking for a Friend, where it is questions that you would not ask HR, otherwise you would get fired. Like, can I smoke weed at work? Right? That is a question you would not ask HR. You might get fired if you ask that question.
But I have a friend who might want to smoke weed at work.
Totally. I have this friend, and and so we approach questions like that, but with a lot of humor. And I wanted to give my team permission to make jokes. If you read any of our blogs or our content, there's playfulness inserted into it. We make jokes. We insert with, what are they called? The special characters. The whole curse word isn't written, but you can see it in some of our blogs. And so we're playful in that way. And I want that to be part of what we do. Our harassment prevention training, the first part's a game of Jeopardy. Like, we make it fun. And I want HR to be, the two most important things is calming and fun. Because let me tell you, sometimes it's not. What we do is very serious. So it's good to interject those things where appropriate.
That's awesome. I love that fun. And I will tell you that probably the worst day every year was when I had to parade in our management team in California and do the harassment training videos, because they were all typically very dry. I wish I'd had you back then to help me with that. And I can recommend you to a lot of people who might need that, because it's mandatory there.
Yeah. One of my dreams, I want to do this one day. Right now it's a game of Jeopardy, but I really want to get actors together and recreate the really awkward videos where, like, the person comes in and, like, touches the person on the shoulder and, like, looking like, don't touch me inappropriately. I would love to do our own videos and make them corny, but, like, purposefully. So you're laughing, but it's also serious at the same time.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I think that, in fact, I go through an exercise with our clients to help them define their core values, because I'm really surprised. I guess I'm not surprised at the number of businesses that don't have core values. And I recently was going through an exercise with a client owned by a couple of people, and we're honing in on the core values. And somebody says, "Remind me why we're doing this, why this is important. We've been around for years and we didn't need this stuff." I said, because we want to make the right hiring decisions. We want to be sure that we are finding people who match our core values, because what I've discovered through the years is that core values are not an acquired taste. You're born with them or without them, right? I mean, you just have these things in your core. Now, it doesn't mean that it hasn't fluctuated through the years, right? But if integrity is one of your core values, you should be asking great questions about integrity, right? In your hiring. If fun is one of your core values, you should be asking questions that will encourage people to answer in such a way so that you can identify. Because if you find people that are the right fit, to me, core values are the litmus test.
Oh, we totally do that so the whole core value process that I did was to prepare to interview, right? And now to this day, our first 2 rounds of interviews have nothing to do with HR. We ask questions like, what's your superpower? Our company right now, we have an internal battle on, does pineapple belong on pizza? Like,
yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we did have a huge Twitter war on that when one of my companies, we owned a company that specialized in software for the pizza restaurant. So I started a huge Twitter and Facebook war on pineapple, pizza or not pizza, right? And it was really quite, I wish I could think of some of the responses that I had out there. But by the way, we've discovered that the population is divided almost 50-50 on whether or not pineapple belongs on a pizza. Now, I will tell you, at some point in my career, because I've owned a lot of businesses, I actually owned a restaurant, and one of our favorite, our top selling pizzas was something that we called our Palenzo's Pizza. The name of the business was Palenzo's Pizza, but it was our Palenzo specialty pizza, which was thin sliced steak with pears on a pizza, gorgonzola and arugula, and it was spectacular, and so very, very popular. So not only do pineapples belong on a pizza, not my personal preference, but pears do belong on a pizza.
I'm for it. I like it. Sounds amazing.
So somewhere along the line, you had mentioned that your business is really a social enterprise. So what does that mean, and why did you choose that type of a structure?
Yeah. So a social enterprise is a for-profit business that the main goal is to make an impact in the world around in a positive place. So that could be through people or through the planet. And I'll rewind back to 2010. I worked for a company called Samazon, and Samazon was a certified B Corp. And that is where I got my introduction to what conscious capitalism is. In fact, I read the book while I was working there. Two very influential books for me was Conscious Capitalism and Let My People Go Surfing by, I don't know how to say his name, Yvonne Chouinard. I apologize, sir, if I'm saying your name wrong, but the CEO or the former CEO of Patagonia. And in that, it opened my eyes to, having a business, but having the purpose be helping the world around you. And so that's what a social enterprise is. That's what we do. I often describe my business as the money-making side and the philanthropic side. Money-making side, human resources for small, mid-sized business. Philanthropic side, the free job coaching that we do for the individuals through their nonprofits.
Awesome. In fact, when you started talking about the description, I wrote down conscious capitalism. I was going to ask you about that, but I'm glad you've read that. There's a great, strong conscious capitalism chapter here in Dallas, and it's exactly the way you described it. And so I love that. We're up on a break. We're talking with LeiLani Quiray, and over the break, I'm going to give her a hard time about being in Dallas and not visiting me, but we'll take a quick break, back in 30 seconds.
Like it or not, eventually you'll have to come to a point when it's time for your business to transition. Will you be ready? Will you be able to get the maximum value for your business? Brought to you by Mastery Partners, Mastery Class is a 12-month program designed specifically for business owners. We meet once a month as a group to work through our Transition Readiness Assessment. Expand your business toolbox through leadership presentations, and have live interaction with other business owners. This program determines vulnerabilities in your business that will affect business value and your ability to transition in the future. Whether that transition is in 2 or 15 years, what you do now has long-term effects on the future value of your business. We have the know-how you need to get the results you want in your business to maximize business value. To learn more and secure your spot in the program, visit mbvmasteryclass.com. That's MBV Mastery Class, mastery with a Y, mbvmasteryclass.com.
We're back with LeiLani Quiray, CEO at Be the Change HR, and we're talking about human resources strategies. I'm sure you're going to find a lot of that in all of the dialogue that we have here. I did give her a hard time about coming to Dallas and not visiting me over the break, but that'll be a story that you'll just have to call me and ask about. So, how do you measure success?
Well, one thing that we are doing in this organization, and let me back up a little bit. When you start a social enterprise, it's not like you get a class on this in school, right? I know what a P&L is. I understand a balance sheet. But when we started venturing into the impact that we make in our organization, which is different, to the individuals we help with the coaching we do, with how we affect the planet, there isn't necessarily a guidebook for that. You don't learn that kind of stuff in school. And so what we started doing last year is, how do we measure that? How do we measure that success? When I first started the business, I made a blanket statement. I'm going to donate 10% of our profit. I didn't say which one either, right? Top line, bottom line, to nonprofits. And then as we've grown, okay, that has been sort of split into two parts. We donate money to nonprofits, so cash donations. But the team in our organization, they get paid to do the job readiness coaching and classes. I call it a forced benefit. So when they're brought on board, they're told that you will lead these classes, you will do these coaching as part of a benefit to you, and we'll present those nonprofits to you. So they get paid for that time, the regular rate that they normally get paid. So as we went through last year, I was like, okay, we have to measure this. And we started doing that, and if we fast forward to today, the combination of both is more than 10% of our net income, right? So we're not only doing cash donations, but the dollar amount of labor that it costs the organization to do these classes is part of that as well. So now we have a measurement with what that looks like for 2021. We are actually doing more job readiness classes, and then we've decided to dedicate our cash donations to a specific organization, one that helps women and children who've been trafficked. It's a house in Mexico called I Network of Hearts. So that's where all our cash donations are going versus year prior. We were just, if anybody asked, it was like, we'll donate money to you. Now we're focusing on ending trafficking for children and women, donating money for that. And then focusing more on having a measurement of how many classes we'll do per month. So right now it's 2 classes per month. Then we're also doing a metric behind for the individuals that we coach, how many success stories are we getting, right? So out of the people that we help, how many are getting that first job? And then beyond that, how many are being promoted or continuing to thrive? It is a tough jump to go from a traumatic situation like homelessness or trafficking and get a job. And there is a lot that happens in between in order to get that person ready for that success. So we are measuring that as well. And the final component is, how are we affecting this planet? I don't know how many of you actually calculated your carbon footprint. I thought it would be easy enough to go on and they'd have like a calculator you could just plug some numbers into. No, it's not that easy. So currently we're measuring and we're figuring out how to measure our carbon footprint to figure how can we make that neutral, or possibly how do we make that negative? So that's our next measurement of success. So triple bottom line, people, right? Planet, and then the easy one we can all do is profit. Those reports you just spit them out of your QuickBooks. It's the people and the planet that we're figuring out what are the KPIs behind that and how we're going to measure success for our organization. And then measuring success for me personally, when we get those stories of those individuals who have gone through our coaching program and who are getting that first job, that is success to me. That is the reason why I started this business. It's been something really passionate that I've been super passionate about for years, and now I get to make this impact through our organization. One of my favorite stories, I call her Lisa. 2 years ago, I coached her. Prior to that, she had been trafficked for 17 years. After being rescued and saved, she was really in healing mode. So when I met her, she was ready to get that job, coached her for a period of time, called me a month after that, got a job at a large Fortune 50 company. And just recently, no more than 2 months ago, told me that she's district manager of a major grocery store chain. So those types of things are how I know, okay, for me personally in my life, these wins of helping other individuals is a measurement of success for me.
Well, I'll tell you, I've got a partner here at Mastery Partners. He and his wife are very involved in a human trafficking prevention organization called Valiant Hearts here in Dallas. Anybody who's in the Dallas area and you want to find a place to get plugged in, I will tell you that I've been to a few of their events. It's extremely eye-opening, right? To what happens to these people who are basically taken against their will, even though they sometimes go willingly, right? Yeah. It's some interesting things about how that whole works. And it was a real eye-opening experience for me. So I would encourage anybody listening who wants to learn more about that and how you can help to contact Valiant Hearts here in DFW, because this area is sort of a super hub for human trafficking. And I didn't know that, right? Because it's so easy, the transportation in and out of here, it being a hub for airlines and major highways. And it's a horrible thing, but I'm so thrilled to hear what you guys are doing to impact that group. If people kind of want to see your fun HR in action, where can they find that?
Oh, totally. So go on YouTube, search Be the Change HR. We have videos on there. There's a whole series, the Asking for a Friend one. You can start there. You can see how much fun we have there. You're welcome to visit our website and sign up for our newsletter. I promise we do not spam. We only do it once a month. So, and in there you'll get a glimpse of our blogs and how we're playful there. Another place that we do this at, and it's a mixture of all the things that we love, is Instagram. So at Be the Change HR or any of the other platforms, and that is inspiration, it's HR tips, it's giving, and it's fun videos. And we're actually doing our second season of Asking for a Friend. You really should subscribe on YouTube because the first video. So in Dallas, I had some dental work done and they numbed my whole entire mouth. And I came back to my place I was staying at and I thought, because I was talking really funny and I knew I needed to record my video for Asking for a Friend. I was like, why don't I just do it right now? And so the first video is, can I remove the drug policy if people do drugs at work? I'm not kidding. And I am doing this while trying to talk while my mouth is completely numb. And even though it's a serious subject, it's pretty funny. So you should subscribe so you can see that.
Oh, believe me, I'm going to binge watch. So I'm in the middle of, or toward the end now of Breaking Bad. That'll be the next series that I binge watch. That sounds hilarious. And I love the approach of kind of making these very difficult conversations and difficult situations, interjecting the fun, but you're delivering the message on how to handle that. So there are plenty of other kind of HR folks that are out there. How is your organization different from traditional HR? I hear a lot of that already, but how are you guys different from traditional HR organizations?
There's also another series on YouTube called HR from the Heart. And I know I echo this, my team echoes this, that we take a more holistic approach to human resources. And what do I mean by that? Simply said, the old school way of approaching employees in the workplace is no longer acceptable. We're all adults, we're all human beings, and there is an element of having a vulnerable, open, honest conversation about whatever the thing is that's going on. We pride ourselves on transparency, on vulnerability, on really caring. And that is another element to our organization besides the fun, besides the calming aspect, is that we really want people to enjoy their time at work. Because, oh my God, even if we're all remote, right? People still affect you. Let me tell you, your leaders, you're still, whatever way they're trying to communicate with you, it's still a big deal. That we really want people to be like, I love working, and I respect and appreciate my leaders because I can be open and honest with them. So that's something that we interject in the language that we use and how we handle our clients and in the material that we put out. That's so important.
I love that. This, of course, this podcast is all about maximizing business value. What is the one most important thing that you recommend business owners do to build long-term value in their business?
I alluded to it earlier, but when it comes to being a business owner, when it comes to being a leader, I think vulnerability is one of the biggest things that you can do with your team. If you are, because listen, we're not perfect, right? We make mistakes. Most of us, everybody does. But if you think you don't make mistakes, you make mistakes. And I think there's something so big to be said about, we don't have to always have a stiff upper lip with our people. We don't always have to look like we're perfect. We can turn to our teams and say, I've made a mistake. We can be vulnerable with them. And in that process, you'll build trust with them. And in that process, they will want to be on your team as well. And I've experienced this with my own team. There have been times where something has happened where I know I'm like, shoot, like, did I mess up? Did I make a mistake? And I will approach them with exactly that. Like, hey, we had this conversation yesterday. I noticed your reaction and I want to make sure that I didn't do anything, anything wrong. Or did I say something that bothered you? Or sometimes they'll say something. I'll be like, shoot, am I not seeing like myself properly? Like, is there something that I'm doing that I can do better? And in that, you even you have the ability to really show them that you believe that you're not infallible, right? That you can make mistakes, and that it really will garner trust and bond you and your team. And through that, yeah, they'll bend over backwards for you, but that's not the point of it. But they will. They'll help you, the organization, because they see your heart, they see you, and they want to be part of that and help the organization grow.
It can't be fake. You've got to, it's got to be authentic, right? And so, I can tell you that I've made, CEO, I've run 100 different businesses in my career, bought or sold 100 different businesses, and I didn't go a whole day without making a mistake. But I think it's okay to be vulnerable and recognize that the CEO isn't superhuman, right? I mean, they may have some superhuman qualities, right? But they're not beyond making mistakes. And I think that when you can recognize that and be honest with your people, that they do respect that. I love that advice, but I can't let you off the hook that easy. That's the kind of the end of the business conversation. But people hang around on this podcast because they want to know the answer to our bonus question. And so here we are. For those folks who have been hanging with us this whole time, they really want to know the answer to this. LeiLani, what personality trait has gotten you into the most trouble through the years?
Oh man, I am so strong-willed. I know every probably business owner is like, yes, me too. I mean, that's why we're in the position that we're in. I know you're looking at my face. If you can see my face, I look young enough, but I am not a millennial. I'm a Gen Xer, right? And I used to change jobs every year and a half, 2 years. And I thought something was wrong with me. I'm like, why do I get agitated, bored? I want to leave. I feel like I'm not doing it. I always was moving when it wasn't acceptable to move. And then when I started this business, I finally got it. I don't like to listen to anybody. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. So this is the longest role I've ever been in, is this business. We're in our 4th year. And honestly, that's what's gotten me into trouble, because I would leave jobs because I didn't like how things were being done, or I didn't agree with it, or I had a moral issue and I couldn't overlook it. So that's it. That's what's gotten me in the most trouble, is that LeiLani does not like to listen. My parents, if I'll have them listen to this, they will be laughing right now. They'll be like, yes, she has been that way since she was born.
I wish I could disagree with you. This is episode 47, and I've heard 47 different answers to that very question. And unfortunately, I've heard 47 different descriptions of me, right? Because almost everything that has been said on this podcast in answer to that question could also be used to describe me. In fact, I've discovered some things about myself, and with the last company that I sold, the company that acquired us wanted me to come on board and do some work for them. And I said, look, I've discovered 2 things about myself through the years. Number one, I am a damn fine CEO. I know how to run a business. I know how to run a company. Number 2, I am a terrible employee. You do not want me dragging your organization down, unless, of course, I looked at the CEO right in the eye and I said, unless, of course, you're thinking of retiring and you need me to fill that role, then I would be happy to consider that. But other than that, you don't want me. So because I am very stubborn and bullheaded and I like calling the shots and all that. How can our listeners and viewers get in touch with you?
Yeah, you're welcome to visit our website, bethechangehr.org. We also have a free 30-minute complimentary session if you'd like to do that. Any of the platforms. We are on any and all of the platforms at Be The Change HR. YouTube, I always point to that. Super funny is the best. That and Instagram, I would highly recommend.
I'm going to go find you there. Thank you, LeiLani, for being our guest today. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun.
You can find LeiLani Quiray at bethechangehr.org, or of course on LinkedIn, any of the social media channels that she mentioned. But of course, you can always reach out to me and I will be happy to offer a warm introduction. This is Maximize Business Value podcast, where we give practical advice to business owners who are passionate about building long-term sustainable value in their business. Be sure to tune in each week and follow us or subscribe wherever you found this podcast. And if you want to comment, we would love that, and we respond to all of them. So until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you to develop an awesome human resource strategy while you maximize business value.
Thank you for tuning into the Maximize Business Value podcast with Tom Bronson. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition on their terms. Learn more on how to build long-term sustainable business value and get free value-building tools by visiting our website, www.masterypartners.com. That's master with a Y, masterypartners.com. Check it out.
That was perfect. I wouldn't make any changes on that.